Hello, my name is George Williams, and I'm the Next Search Catalog Coordinator at Northeast Kansas Library System. And I'm going to go over a couple of changes that I made to the cataloging module in Koha with some custom code on January 28th, 2025. So I'm going to pull up a test record. We're going to go to this test record, and the changes I made have to do with indicators. If you've looked at the new cataloging manual, there's some information in there about indicators. And I was doing some cataloging training last week, and it occurred to me that I should be able to automate some of this indicator stuff so that you guys won't have to worry about it anymore. So I'm going to go to this test record, and the first thing I'll do is I'll talk about the indicators. So you notice a lot of fields. There are these two boxes next to the main field. Those are where the indicators go. Most indicators you don't have to worry about. If you don't know what the indicator's for, don't worry about using it. It's some of them are not a big deal. Hardly any of them are a big deal in Koha. Some of them become a bigger deal in Aspen Discovery, and that's why I wanted to make sure that we got some indicator stuff in here to make sure those get correct. So main entry. So to explain main entry to people, think of card catalog cards when they were still paper cards. One of the materials had a card for author, title, and subject. The author card was considered the main card for a set of card catalog cards. And so the main entry was an author field. And in what we've got Koha stripped down to for us is the main entry can be a 100, which is a personal name, a 110, which is a corporate name. You might not think we have a lot of those, but this would be most common in music. The Eagles is a corporate name for the band made up of those five guys that had all those songs in the 70s. The Beatles is a corporate name for the band The Beatles. Those are just a couple of examples. There's tons of examples. And then a meeting name would be like the American Society of Engineers hosts a conference every year, and they produce a volume of papers based on the presentation given at that meeting, and the meeting name is the author name on that document. And then lastly is main entry uniform title, and that's where a work is so common that it's known by its title as the main entry rather than by a personal name of the author. An example of that might be something like I think King Kong, the 1933 version of King Kong, uses King Kong 1933 film as the uniform title. So we're going to talk about the indicators on the 100 field. We'll talk about the first indicator. The second indicator I can say quickly about all of these is the second indicator on all 100 fields is always supposed to be blank. So if we put a 9 in here, what I did is I wrote some code that if somebody does try to fill in one of these fields, as soon as you take the cursor out of the author field, all of those second indicators should be blanked. So if you touch this field, if we put any digit in the second indicator, any second indicator, as soon as we go to the author field, all the second indicators go blank because they're supposed to be blank. As far as the first indicator, I'm not going to talk about the first indicator on the 110, 111, or 130. These are so uncommon in Next Search Catalog that we don't really have to worry about them. The first indicator on the 100 field, if there's no author, that should be blank. If the author is known by a single name, such as Homer, the author of the Odyssey, that field should be blank or a 0. blank and zero mean the same thing. So if it's Homer, it should be blank. And I've set the code that I wrote so that if it's a one-word name, another name is Avi. If you put in Avi, that will stay blank. If we do Asimov, ISAAC, and once we take the cursor out of the personal name field, it will give us a 1 there, because the correct indicator for a name that is expressed as last name, comma, first name, the indicator is supposed to be 1, indicating that the first word in this is the person's surname. And then we have and so that's going to be the most common thing you're going to see there. We have a lot of surnames that are blank because in Koha it doesn't matter. But in Aspen Discovery, it helps sort the authors if the indicators are correct. There is a third option that we run into less than 10 times in Nick Search Catalog, but I did code it in there. Ronald Goldman's family, the guy that was killed by, that wasn't killed by O.J. Simpson, found not guilty. Ronald Goldman's family wrote a book about Ronald Goldman under the author's name of Goldman family. So once we take the cursor out of there, it's going to change to a 3 to indicate that this is a family name only. Another example would be the Brothers Grimm. If we put that in there, if we blank this, put the cursor in there, take the cursor out, that's going to change to a 3 because the Brothers Grimm is a family name, not an individual author's name. So I'm going to make this blank right now and go on to the 200s. Now the 200s, I'm only going to talk about the 245 field. And there are 2 indicators here. So I talked about the main entry would be the main card in a set of paper cards for a title, for a bibliographic record. So if there is no main entry, if all of these are blank, then the title becomes the main entry. And if the title is the main entry, the first indicator on the 245 should be a 0, indicating that it is a main entry. So let's clear this field out. Let's say Day of the Jackal. If we're talking about Day of the Jackal, the movie, the first indicator would be a 0 because there is no author's name associated with the movie. If it's the book by Frederick Forsyth, we put the author's name there, we take the cursor out, and it's going to update that 100 first indicator. And in the title statement, when we go to type the title, when we take the cursor out, we've got Day of the Jackal. Anytime you have a main entry in the 100 fields, the 245 first indicator, if that's a 1, it's called an added entry. So the title is considered an added entry if there is an author. So the 245 has the first indicator should be a 1. That's what the first indicator does, and I've got this all set up so that when you type a title in here, when you take the cursor out, it's going to look at all 4 of the main entry fields, and if any of these are in use, it's going to make this a 1. Simple, easy. And if all of the main entry fields are blank, then it's going to put this as a 0 to indicate that this is the title is the main entry. The second indicator is the alphabetization indicator. So what the second indicator does is if this was called a Day of the Jackal, it would start with an article. Articles aren't alphabetized. So if we take the cursor out of there, it's going to put a 2 in this box because the first 2 spaces in that title are not alphabetized. And that gives us Day of the Jackal instead of a Day of the Jackal. So it's going to appear alphabetically as a D, not as an A. This was not a big deal in Koha. That's why, we just kind of let it go. The Authority Control Cleanup did clean up a ton of those that were problematic. But this will keep us good going forward. So a Day of the Jackal. If this was an Day of the Jackal, if it was grammatically incorrect, there would be a 3 there because we're skipping 3 spaces, A-N space. And again, we're still alphabetizing this as Day of the Jackal under the D's. And the Day of the Jackal should put a 4 over here, and it does. And then we've also got, if this was in Spanish and it was El Day of the Jackal, then we've got a 3 to E-L space are skipped, and it's still alphabetized as the D's. So L and La, A and the. There are some other cases, though. We have several books, more than I expected, where the title is part of a phrase, and it's the last part of a phrase. So the title begins with a couple of dashes. One of them, I think, was called And Then There Were None. So the alphabetization rules say skip the 2 dashes, and that's what I've got the coded to do, is it's putting a 2 there to indicate that this is alphabetized under and, not alphabetized under dash dash. So like I said, these are things that we've got some cleanup to do in Koha, but they will help Aspen Discovery work better because the indexing in Aspen Discovery relies on good cataloging with good indicators and good information in the bibliographic record helps Aspen be a better catalog for patrons. It will help with alphabetization and sorting. It will also help with grouping in grouped works. So those are all important for Aspen, and so that's why I added these. If you have any questions, as always, just send an email to nexthelp@necles.org, or you can call the Necles office, and I hope to see you all soon.